Welcome into the PFF podcast. Steve Palazzolo back here with Sam Monson. We're in the podcast nook closet getting ready for Week 10 action in the NFL. Sam, this is being released on Friday, but I think it's only right that we give our listeners a Thursday night football game review, even though this is getting recorded before the actual Seattle Seahawks Arizona Cardinals game. So I want your thoughts on the game that we haven't seen yet that has already taken place, Seahawks versus Cardinals.
Yeah, we're going to analyze the game that has taken place when you're listening that we have not seen. So,
and then you let us know just how good or bad we were.
The Seattle Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals, division matchup, Earl Thomas not playing, Richard Sherman will play, Achilles injury, Sheldon Richardson got dealing with some issues, so they're banged up.
They already played, though.
You're right. They were banged up heading into this game. Earl Thomas did not play. Here you go. Now we're on.
Did it matter?
Yes, it was a big problem.
It was.
Drew Stanton was able to get some deep passes off that he would not ordinarily be able to.
That's not what I saw.
Because Earl Thomas wasn't there.
That is not what I saw.
A couple of touchdowns from Drew Stanton over the top of the Seahawks defense that usually doesn't happen because there was no Earl Thomas. It was a huge turning point in the game, but ultimately Drew Stanton remembered he was Drew Stanton, tossed 3 interceptions, and they lost anyway.
Yeah, so you may have been 11 Guinnesses deep on the first part of that game. The 3 interceptions did happen.
It's what happened.
Okay, the 3 interceptions did happen. That's not the way I saw the game.
You didn't see touchdowns?
I didn't. I did not see that. Maybe I tuned in too late. Arizona struggled offensively to move the football against Seattle is what I saw. And Russell Wilson bounced back from one of the worst games we've seen of him over the last couple years.
Yeah.
Last Sunday. And that's what happened. Seattle victorious over the Arizona Cardinals. There you have it. That's your is that your scoop?
Yeah.
Who was the player of the game?
Player of the game, it's going to be a defender of some kind, isn't it, with this matchup?
Wagner,
Wasn't
maybe?
it? Wagner is in a rich vein of form right now, playing absolutely fantastic.
Bobby Wagner.
Bobby Wagner was the player of the game.
Remember that play that he made?
Absolutely.
That was spectacular. So, yeah, that's your game recap. That's Seattle versus Arizona. Let us know how well we did because we haven't actually seen the game yet. Let's get into the real game previews this weekend. Do you want to work left to right or top to bottom, Sam?
Let's go top to bottom.
All right, so that's New Orleans Saints versus the Buffalo Bills. The Bills and the Dolphins and the AFC East having a lot of success against the NFC South so far this season. So it's a pretty good matchup. Yet it's not one of those matchups we may have highlighted earlier in the season with the New Orleans Saints and their defense all of a sudden being one of the best in the league. The Buffalo Bills, we talk about their defense every single week here and how it's been revamped under Sean McDermott. What are you seeing from this game, Sam?
Right up until they got stomped last week by the New York Jets, who it turns out are actually okay. And a shock to everybody.
They did get stomped a little bit.
They really got stomped. They got worked by the Jets. And that's the big thing coming into this game was that just one of those games, Thursday Night Football, a bit of a freak.
Division games, too. That
exactly,
stuff
division
happens.
games. Every team is going to have a game somewhere along the season where they just don't look like themselves and it's not as good, not as bad, whatever. Was that just Buffalo's game? They got worked by the Jets. It didn't look like the Bills team that we've seen for the rest of the season. Or were they, because we've been expecting them to kind of come back down to earth, having overachieved so much this season. Rolling into the season, we talked about them as this team that was blowing things up to rebuild for 2018 and beyond. So are we starting to see that kind of team emerge? And this defense has been overachieving with a new scheme and with young players all playing well. I mean, the Saints are really going to test that because they're rolling into town with an offense that's playing pretty well, with Drew Brees playing well, with weapons all over the field in terms of receivers, with a really strong backfield, with Ingram and Alvin Kamara, a fantastic touchdown last week, playing extremely well as both a receiver and a running threat. So this is as good an offense as you're going to get tested by for this Buffalo defense. I think the big story there is, are they able to play up to the standard they've done for most of the season, or will another good offense be able to roll them like the Jets did?
Like the Jets, that good offense that the Jets have.
The Jets are actually kind of okay.
They're capable. I told you, the Josh McCown factor with the Jets. He's capable of moving the ball. One of our top-graded quarterbacks on third down. Brees is really interesting this year, and what I keep saying about the Saints, because the pressure's not completely on Drew Brees, they're winning games where he's just, okay. And that is just not something that happened often the last couple of years because of the defense, because of Marshawn Lattimore's emergence, because of the running game, as you mentioned, the two-headed monster of Ingram and Kamara. So, liking the Saints, even on the road in Buffalo, a little challenge for your boy Tyrod going up against this Saints defense that since week 2 is one of the best in the NFL.
And we're going to get to see the Kelvin Benjamin, Tyrod Taylor dynamic for the first time this week. Whether he will start being more aggressive and putting the ball in danger because Kelvin Benjamin is a catch point receiver, or whether Kelvin Benjamin is just going to be running around all day, completely blanket covered and never throwing the ball.
I think we're all on record, and I've said it last week. You said it last week. I think Renner's in the same boat with us. We don't like the fit, right? As far as Benjamin, on paper, it does not look like a great fit. Benjamin's leaving the quarterback who may have been the best fit for him in Cam Newton, even though it didn't always show up on the field. The best fit. Is it going to work with Tyrod?
Have we explained the absence of Mike Renner, by the way, in this podcast?
Look, I'm sick of making excuses for Mike. Okay.
Are we suspending him again for being... This time apparently he is now throwing up because he ate a bad batch of Taco Bell. He's blaming the guac. Who knows whether that's true or not. Look, either way, he's bailed on us again.
The biggest mistake there is expecting that there's a good batch of Taco Bell. So that's your own fault.
So you're giving up on the idea of Taco Bell ever sponsoring this podcast.
Oh, shoot. Taco Bell, if you guys are out... Hey, look, if you're a Taco Bell owner... We're more than willing. Mike Renner will at least give you.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
he will
I'm married. I got kids.
The hell out of your product.
I try to take care of myself a little bit better.
Really?
Who you got in this game, Sam? New Orleans or Buffalo? We're going to talk about the Renner suspension and whatever he's got to deal with. I do too. I like the Saints, and I think they continue to roll. Let's go to the hometown team, our Cincinnati Bengals. That's just where we live, Sam. Going to Tennessee to take on the Titans. The weird Tennessee Titans. Can't figure them out. Week over week. Marcus Mariota, in our grading system, quietly grading well the last few weeks. His play-action numbers versus non-play-action numbers, absolutely insane. 130-plus passer rating with play-action, right around 70 with no play-action. I don't know if that's sustainable. What do you see in this game? The Bengals and the Titans, a lot of playoff implications in this one.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of the Titans. They're one of those teams. The Titans and the Ravens are the two teams I think that I have the biggest problem still identifying where on earth they sit. I think the Bengals are going to they're going to have problems in terms of their offensive line trying to bottle up Jarrell Casey, who's been playing out of his skin the past couple of weeks. They don't have anybody on that offensive line that can block Casey. So that's going to be a big problem. They do have A.J. Green, though, somehow. Escaping suspension because he got tossed from the game.
He just flipped.
Yes.
Just flipped out.
Snapped. Like, we lost the plot.
And Jalen Ramsey was essentially saying, yeah, I was talking trash the whole game. And
I love that explanation.
What did it?
He said he was jawing with him all game. He said he shoved him after every single play. I didn't check him. I just took him at his word. But he said if you pull up the tape, he shoved him like that after every single play. Called him soft. Eventually, A.J. Green just snapped and went for him.
That's a ballsy attitude for the second-year player. I mentioned playoff implications in this game. The Tennessee Titans tied for first in the AFC South. Now, the Bengals are 3-5, and they are in this weird position where if you're, I walk around town, there's a lot of Bengals jerseys, and, there's a lot of hopefuls around town here, Sam. The Bengals might need to win out to maybe they get like one or two games that they can lose along the way to actually be in the playoffs. So, in theory, they're still around, and obviously a huge game for them to keep their hopes alive.
Yeah, they don't need to win out. I mean, 3-5 is only a couple of games below 500. If you're at or around 500, you're going to be in the hunt in the AFC. Their problem is that 3-5 is probably indicative of their quality and the games that they'll win going forward. So, if they have that kind of ratio again, they're obviously sunk. I don't think this team is really capable of going on a run that reverses 3-5 down the stretch. And puts them in contention. So I think the playoff implication for this game is really only for Tennessee.
You got Tennessee winning this one?
Yes.
I do too. Tennessee, and I think it's time we start talking about the Titans. They win this game, they'll be 6-3. Start looking at what they're going to be able to do going up against Jacksonville in that AFC South. Right now they're tied for first. What's with the order on these, Taylor? You're giving me the order to these games, and it's just all crazy town. Okay, it's just a bunch of games. So we're going to jump right to Sunday Night Football. And the Patriots going to Denver to take on the Broncos. The Patriots, breaking news. It's not really breaking on Friday, but on Thursday it was. Martellus Bennett claimed off of waivers by the New England Patriots. This reeks of like the LeGarrette Blount situation a couple years ago where Blount was a Patriot. He goes to the Pittsburgh for a little bit. They claim him back, and he's back, and he's a part of the Patriots. We'll see if Martellus Bennett becomes an integral part of that team once again, but I think that was the obvious fit after he got released by the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, well, he asked to be shut down. He asked to be put on season-ending IR with whatever he was dealing with. Basically, that's
Brett Hundley disease, I think, is what he wanted.
Basically, as soon as Aaron Rodgers went down, Martellus Bennett was like, "To hell with this! I suddenly need all these injuries fixed surgically."
Yeah, Brady or bust. That's all.
The Packers viewed that as basically, a money grab. I just want to get the money for having my injuries repaired. And we're like, no, we're going to release you with an injured designation. And now he's signing with the Patriots where he gets another shot to actually play with a legitimate quarterback and chase the ring. So it's definitely interesting dealing from both sides in that little wrangle.
Look, I don't know what he has left and how much he can actually contribute this year. I will say he was a key part of the team last year. He didn't dominate, but he was a key part of the game. When Rob Gronkowski got hurt,
he was hurt himself all year long.
He played through injury. He was tough as nails last year, and I think the number 2 tight end position in New England, they signed Dwayne Allen. He just has not been good. He just has not looked good in the pass game, has not been the run blocker that we've seen in the past. They started giving a few more snaps to Jacob Hollister, an undrafted rookie, so there are snaps to be had in that New England offense, assuming Bennett is over his Brett Hundley disease.
Yes.
But as far as the game, losing a little bit of luster, I think, given the Broncos quarterback play and how the defense has started to regress in recent weeks. We have Brock Osweiler, comes in last week and just looks bad after Trevor Siemian looked bad in all of the previous weeks. So Denver offensively struggling, and the defense not as dominant as it's been in previous years.
Well, this past week was the first time we saw Denver Broncos Domata Peko become Cincinnati Bengals Domata Peko. I mean, he got absolutely abused by the Philadelphia Eagles, coincidentally going up against a really good offensive line. But all the way through this season, he's been playing pretty well, and then just got destroyed by the Eagles. And he wasn't alone. Like, Derek Wolfe had a bad game, got controlled. The linebackers, Brandon Marshall, Shane Ray, Aqib Talib has started to get targeted a little bit and actually, I guess, regress back towards what he was before last season. He's been picked on a little bit the past couple of weeks. So I think there's a big game for the Broncos, not to prove that they can actually win, because I don't think there's any chance of that happening, but for that defense to step up and say, look, we're still an elite unit even if the offense sucks.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. Look, New England's offense has not had great success in Denver. Even last year, they only scored 21 points. When they won 21-3 in Denver last year, so it was very much the New England defense that did a fine job out there. And New England just doesn't generally play well in Denver. So I don't think it's as lopsided maybe as the recent records and the trends have gone. So New England generally has some struggles there, and there's a lot of questions about Denver giving up and this embarrassment against the Eagles. I think the defense steps up a little bit and makes it a tough game.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they need to do. I think there's a good chance they come out there with a point to prove.
So we both still like New England in this game, but would not be surprised to see Denver play a little bit tougher than they have the last few weeks. Still talented on D. They have started to become the team that we thought that they might regress to the last couple of years, but they've got Brock Osweiler back at quarterback as the starter, and he kind of looked like the worst quarterback in the league that he was graded at last year. That's what he looked like last Sunday against the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, their whole improvement was contingent on Trevor Siemian playing okay, not terribly. And as soon as he started to play terribly, all bets were off. And obviously, Brock Osweiler coming back into the thing is another terrible quarterback. So, yeah, bad.
All right, let's move on. We both take New England. Let's go to Jacksonville, the first place Jacksonville Jaguars. They limited the Cincinnati Bengals to 39 offensive plays on Sunday.
Yeah.
That's like 2 drives for Navy.
Best statistic Mike Renner's ever come up with is that Adrian Peterson touched the ball more times than Russell Bodine did. And Russell Bodine is the center, who obviously touches the ball in every play.
That's incredible. That is a good stat. I like that. What are you seeing here? It's the travel east. You got the travel east. You got to take into account. You have Phillip Rivers, two teams that are trying to be cloned in a similar way because you've got two Seahawks, former Seahawks coaches, Gus Bradley running the defense for the Los Angeles Chargers, the Jacksonville defense kind of being molded the way the Seahawks are, that cover 1, cover 3 scheme, building through that pass rush. So there's a lot of similarities to where their defenses are on these two teams.
Jacksonville is such an interesting team because they are beginning to look like they're absolutely for real and built in the same way that other great teams in recent years without good quarterbacks have been built. So think that Denver Broncos team with an amazing defense and with a Brock Osweiler / Peyton Manning quarterback situation that was just ugly. Like whether it was Brock Osweiler playing okay or Peyton Manning playing terribly but having the veteran savvy that everyone assumed he was the better option anyway. Either way, they were winning in spite of the quarterback, not because of him.
Right.
The Jags are in the same kind of situation where that defense is starting to look phenomenal. It's got a pass rush all over the place. It's got the best cornerback tandem in the league. It's deep. The only thing, it's not great at stopping the run, but who cares because they're so good against the pass. On the other side of the ball, they're trying to do everything in their power to take the ball out of Blake
Bortles.
Blake Bortles. Yes, Blake Bortles' hands.
You trying to say that he's just as bad as Gabbert? They're the same guy?
I wasn't trying to, but apparently I've mentally conflated them, so sure. They're trying to take the ball out of his hands, put it on the ground, Leonard Fournette, pound the ball, just rack up the carries. And that is the way they win, because if Bortles has to pass the ball, they're in trouble. But these are they look for real now, but these are the games now that they need to win. They need to go up against the Chargers team and say, no, look, we're not at that level anymore.
Right.
We are contending. This is a legit team, and we are going to steamroll this Chargers unit and take home a win.
Yeah, so the offensive line for the Chargers has still been an issue. Jacksonville has beat up on bad offensive lines all year.
Yeah.
And I would expect the same with that defensive line. Calais Campbell, 13 sacks per PFF, 11 per the NFL, because we don't do the half-sack thing, and he has a chance to have a field day. So, we're both taking Jacksonville in this one?
Yep.
All right, we're both taking the Jags. Let's go to Indianapolis. The Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Indianapolis Colts. Still have Jacoby Brissett running the show. In Indianapolis, Andrew Luck officially shut down for the season. Before we get into the game, do you have any thoughts on the entire Andrew Luck saga? Because that is
it's a saga. It's officially a saga.
Oh, it is. There's a lot of he said stuff going on.
I mean, when was the last time he played now? It's a long, long time ago.
It was late last year. I mean, he played last year, and he only missed one game last season. Missed a whole big chunk of 2015 where he was playing hurt. The 2015 thing was interesting because he was terrible at the beginning of the year and wasn't supposedly injured until Game 3.
Yeah.
And then he played terribly between Games 3 and 7 or whatever it was, and everybody blamed the injury. But it's been a saga of this shoulder injury behind a bad offensive line.
I mean, it's weird because their owner, Jim Irsay, is making noises like he thinks it's all in his head. It's not, it's not a true physical debilitating injury. And then other people are saying things like, Andrew Luck legitimately may never play properly again. We may never see the guy that we saw before he was shut down. I don't know what to make of it. I mean, this was an injury that was supposed to keep him out a little bit of time at the start of the season. Then when he'd roll back in and everything would be good. And it's now ended up shutting them down entirely. Now, I think a big part of that is because clearly the season is already gone. So
yeah, that part I get.
You don't have a huge amount to gain by putting him back out there, even if he is relatively healthy. But
it's more the fact that it's even gotten to this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's at this point, it's a major question mark about a franchise that we thought was set long-term at quarterback because they went from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck, and everything was looking good. But now Andrew Luck is a huge question mark, ironically coming off his best season before all these injuries did strike.
Yeah, look, I don't want to get too far into it, but I think this offseason is going to be fascinating when we look at the QB potential carousel. Maybe Andrew Luck has played his last game in Indianapolis. It seems lopsided on paper. Pittsburgh's defense continues to get better. The offense, I think, still has the explosive weapons to do damage, and I think that could make them a scary team down the stretch. You have Pittsburgh in this one as well?
Yeah.
All right, so we both take a Pittsburgh. A lot of people around the league still buzzing about Jacoby Brissett, and if there's something to watch in this game, it's how does he do against this Pittsburgh defense. He has a knack right now for playing a little bit better than maybe his stats will show in our system, and he's a solid player.
He remains intriguing. That's
he remains intriguing.
The word that comes to mind with Jacoby Brissett.
We need more Post-its up here, and we'll have like a little stock watch for Brissett. Right now, he's
just only reads intriguing.
He's just leveled off at intriguing right now. He might end up a star. He could be a dud at some point, but right now he remains intriguing. In a matchup that would look, this would be an unbelievable matchup if it was 1986. The New York Giants taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Here we are in 2017. One win between the two teams.
One win. I still can't get my head around the idea that Giants team only has one win. I mean, there is way too much talent on that roster for them to just be one win. But that entire situation appears to be imploding.
Our second half projections had a favorable projection for them. It was because they're playing something like the 29th or 30th easiest schedule in the second half. This game on paper is one of those that looks favorable. But coming off a 51-17 drubbing at home against the Los Angeles Rams.
The one thing our numbers are not going to take into account of is the kind of toxic nature of that situation that appears to be unfolding, which is open revolt amongst players, suspensions happening all over the place, guys going to the media saying that the coach has lost the locker room, all this kind of stuff. This looks like a disaster. The team has got one win already, which is already bad enough. Then you go and get absolutely stomped by a team like the Rams. You give up 51 points. It looks disastrous for the Giants. The only good news is that they're going up against one of the worst teams in the NFL, if not the worst team in the San Francisco 49ers. But so, if you're going to get back up for a game and think you can win a game, it's going to be against the 49ers. But equally, the 49ers are going to see this as their chance to get off.
Absolutely.
To get their win, to get off that 0 win record.
As always, we say players to watch. DeForest Buckner, tied for number 2 among defensive interior players right now for the 49ers. And I think if you're a 49ers fan, it's all about watching how these young players start to come together and, looking for that hope for the future.
They have some fun players. DeForest Buckner is a good quality player that's made a lot of noise against, admittedly, some bad offensive lines he's gone up against. Reuben Foster looks fantastic whenever he's on the field. They just need to keep him on the field. And in the defensive backfield, I think Jaquiski Tartt has made some really good, nice plays in coverage.
He absolutely has. And shout out to Bobby Slowick, who's looked great in his khakis every single week.
Dominating those khakis on the sideline.
Yeah, the quality control coach on the defensive side for your 49ers. Giants, Eli Manning started to slow down and regress after a decent start for him, but he's just kind of piecing it together. They've got a lot of work to do on the offensive side of the ball. And from a defensive line standpoint, lowest pressure rate in the league for the Giants, or second lowest.
Yeah, and they also need to really stop using Landon Collins as a deep free safety again.
Ooh, that got ugly a couple times.
Yes.
The Rams had a really good game plan for a couple of the routes where they put Collins into a tough situation. Then he was playing. Yeah, he got turned around at center field.
We already realized he can't do that. Don't ask him to do it again. Stop it.
Last year, Collins was a lot of fun to watch as a downhill quarters safety, a guy who works well moving forward. So we'll watch what happens there. Who you have winning this one, Sam?
That is a good question. Who did I choose? I chose the 49ers. I gave them their first victory of the season.
All right. I took the Giants. I did not give them their first victory of the season. Sorry, Bobby, and your khakis. Do you think Bobby really does that slide that he told us in the secret chat? He said he likes to slide in the grass before every game in his khakis to feel like he played.
I don't know.
I can't tell if he was joking or not.
I have no idea.
If any of you guys are at the 49ers game before, keep an eye out for coaches sliding on grass before.
You would think that would have made a meme somewhere. Look at what this crazy coach is doing before every 49ers game.
It must be made up then. There's no way.
Yeah.
He's a gritty guy, though. I could see him doing it. All right, let's move on. It's the they're calling it the Ryan Fitzpatrick revenge game. The New York Jets taking on the Tampa Bay Bucks. Jameis Winston is out. The pregame speech did not work last week for Jameis, and then he got banged up. And now it's Ryan Fitzpatrick taking over, going up against his former team in the Jets.
That was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life.
It was not the best speech I've heard.
You had to when you have to explain what the hell it is you're doing, you're already lost. It's done.
He was eating a W, Sam.
Yes, he was. But he had to explain that he was doing that to people, at which point you've already failed.
My favorite part about the speech is that I first saw it without audio. And I thought that he had dislocated his finger. And I thought he was trying to like show the team like, hey, I have a dislocated finger, but I'm your quarterback. I'm going to go play with this. And I thought it was at halftime.
Was the point where you started eating it where you got really confused?
Then I got really confused. So my initial reaction of he dislocated it hurts, he's going to play through it, but now he's eating it. I didn't know what was going on.
So for like the first half dozen times I saw that, obviously you're captivated by what on earth Jameis Winston is doing. But the last time I saw it, I made a point of trying to look at what the hell everybody else's reaction to it was around in the circle.
Yeah.
And you're like, what would you even think if your quarterback starts doing that in your face? And a couple of the guys just start laughing, like midway through this ridiculous tirade. Yeah, that's terrible. But Jameis Winston's also sitting on the bench. We're done. Jameis Winston, get out of here. This is Ryan Fitzpatrick's time to shine. And that's probably not going to go well. Because
look, Fitzpatrick has the Josh McCown type of...
Is this the most YOLO pass-centric game in NFL history?
Fitz versus McCown?
Yeah.
Oh, there'll be some YOLOs. They're so similar, though, right?
Yeah.
Because when you rank players, it's not as simple as, well, he's the 30th best quarterback in the league and he's 27th, therefore everything's going to be bad. Fitzpatrick and McCown both have plenty of positive moments in a lot of games. Fitzpatrick was, pretty solid a couple of years ago. He can move the chains. He has no problem taking chances. The YOLOs, everything. And McCown does the same thing. So I don't think it's here are two quarterbacks who aren't great. Therefore, it's going to be a 9-6 game. There's going to be a lot of action. There'll be some big throws. There'll be some questionable decisions. It'll be exciting for a Jets-Bucks Week 10 game. Two teams that probably aren't making the playoffs.
These two quarterbacks have 17 NFL teams between them. Actually, I don't know if that's true because they probably double up. They do double up somewhere down the line. So there's not 17 individual franchises between them. But between the two of them, they have played for 17 teams as a career.
Oh, I love it. I mean, look, it should be a YOLO game, like you said. Who are you taking in this one? Because, look, I don't think it's as simple as saying, hey, Ryan Fitzpatrick's the backup. They're in trouble. I think they got a shot here.
Yeah, I think even with Jameis, the Jets win this game.
Well, I took Tampa Bay. You guys are all on the Jets bandwagon now. So, all right, Sam, let's go to Minnesota taking on the Washington Redskins. Are the Vikings the most quiet 6-2 team that you've seen?
Everybody, I think, has to be waiting for the wheels to fall off that thing because the quarterback situation is chaos. I mean, they have just put Sam Bradford on IR. Sam Bradford just had the Andrew Luck thing where, yeah, he'll be back soon. I mean, he came out of that game. People didn't even know he was injured. Sam Bradford had the game of his life, week one.
Week one, right.
After the game, people were like, oh, by the way, Sam Bradford's injured. And then there was, next week, Case Keenum's starting. And then everyone would just assume that Bradford, and then it's, no, don't worry, Sam's fine. He may not be back next week, but he's fine.
Right.
And now Sam Bradford is on IR, having only been back on the field once since where he looked like he basically couldn't walk.
Replaced by?
Teddy Bridgewater.
Unbelievable.
So now you have, but you're still, so now Case Keenum is still your quarterback, but his backup is Teddy Bridgewater, who was last seen collapsing under the failed structure of his own knee on a non-contact play.
Skinny knees.
Like a year ago.
Our friend Eric Eager, who we'll hear from shortly with his lock of the week, who's done a great job picking games with the ELO, him and George C., because we're still not going to say George's last name. No. Eric has a theory on Case Keenum. Using all of our data, he's playing really well under pressure, which is very difficult to sustain, especially when you have this baseline of poor play under pressure that Case Keenum has. So he's saying cash out. Just get out of there.
Well,
get out of the Case Keenum game.
This is where everybody is. So you've got this, you had until this week like a three-way quarterback dilemma where you had Sam Bradford, who was, who was playing the game of his life, then just got injured randomly and has never been seen from since. So Bradford's now out of the picture on IR.
Right.
You've got Case Keenum, who everybody is assuming the wheels are going to come off at some point relatively soon. And the only other option you have is Teddy Bridgewater, who wrecked his knee last August, like a year and a bit ago, and wrecked his knee in like such a comprehensive way that it was a case of he's probably never playing again. And just to be back activated is an incredible achievement, but who knows what Teddy Bridgewater is anymore.
But like how bad, like look, if assuming he's been activated, as bad as the injury was reportedly and actually was, and maybe it was going to be career ending, how bad could he be if he's been activated?
Terrible. I mean,
Why?
well, look,
His legs got to be like good enough that they've activated him to play in an NFL football game.
Dante Culpepper was physically fine after wrecking his knee, but was never the same quarterback again. He crapped out of Miami, crapped out of Oakland. Dante Culpepper was terrible after he wrecked his knee.
That was a Randy Moss issue.
No, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Dante Culpepper was not a product of Randy Moss.
He did one thing extremely well with his little hands.
No,
and
don't
that's throw a deep ball.
be that guy. Forget Dante Culpepper. There are other players who have never been the same again, having wrecked their knee, and this was as bad a knee injury as you're ever going to see.
Sure.
So he may be physically cleared to play, but who knows what kind of play he's going to have if he goes out on the field. And now the Vikings are 6-2, looking to be one of the league's contenders without any idea if they're going to have a viable quarterback come January.
They're watching Bridgewater practice every day.
Yes.
They have to have an idea if he's at least a shell of his former self. Now you have to find out in a game. At some point, Teddy Bridgewater needs to get on the field.
Absolutely.
You have to see what he's got, and then you have to figure out, Bradford's gone. Are we re-upping Teddy Bridgewater, or are we back in the quarterback market?
Definitely.
In drafting?
But like I say, there are quarterbacks that have looked fine before until they got on the field, and they're not the same guys.
As far as this game goes,
yeah,
the two receivers for the Vikings, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, two of our top guys in contested catches. One of our new stats this year, contested catch situations. Both guys doing a heck of a job. I think they've really helped Case Keenum. And I think Minnesota has improved on the offensive line, but they're still not there.
Back towards average.
They are the sample. They are the poster boys for creeping back towards average. Still room to improve on that Minnesota offensive line.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's not good. It's just not terrible anymore.
It's not the T.J. Clemmings-led disaster that it was last season. And
on
that
the other
defense
hand,
is legit.
Washington is the T.J. Clemmings disaster.
And now T.J. Clemmings, you made a good point. The Redskins rolled out backups and T.J. Clemmings and
they went
undrafted free agent rookies, and they were maybe the best offensive line on the field against Seattle.
They went into Seattle with 4/5 of that offensive line being backups and the fifth working on 2 sprained ankles, and they were the best offensive line on the field versus not just a first-strength Seattle team, but a first-strength with the addition of Dwayne Brown at left tackle.
Yeah, that's an accomplishment,
isn't it?
For the Seahawks.
And T.J. Clemmings was on that field. And they were still better.
What do you see? Look, I keep every episode, every show this week, I've been talking about Kirk Cousins and how impressed I was down the stretch in Seattle. Another huge challenge going up against this Minnesota defense, and another pretty much getting to that must-win time for Washington.
Yeah, and if you're curious about whether T.J. Clemmings is any better this year, no.
He struggled.
I think you could have told him which plays Dwight Freeney was going to run his spin move on, and he still wouldn't have been able to come close to blocking them. I counted,
pretty incredible.
I think 4 inside spin moves that Dwight Freeney hit T.J. Clemmings with, where he was just grasping at nothing and almost falling over.
How's Everson Griffin's spin move?
I don't think it's as good, but it doesn't need to be. I mean, he's got outside moves, he's got a bull rush, he's got other ways of beating T.J. Clemmings. The point overall is that T.J. Clemmings is going to have problems.
Yeah, the Minnesota defense, it's interesting because I thought early last year they were ready to become known as one of those elite defenses. And again, I don't know if this is going under the radar this year. They've just been consistently good throughout the season on defense for Minnesota. The back 7 doing a nice job in coverage. Up front, Griffin grading well as a pass rusher. Donnell Hunter continues to grade well. Linval Joseph been one of the most disruptive interior defensive linemen. This is a huge game, another playoff implications game. It's a 4-4 Washington team that is getting into that territory where they can't afford to lose more than 2 or 3 games the rest of the season. And Minnesota, trying to prove to everyone that they're not fool's gold at 6-2.
This Vikings team wins every game until the wheels fall off the Case Keenum bandwagon, and I have no idea when that's going to happen.
I'm going to say this week, I'm picking Washington. I think that defense, as banged up as they've been, with a lot of big names, in and out of the lineup, Jonathan Allen out for the season, they really did a heck of a job against Russell Wilson last week. The Washington defense has had these games where they've played really well this year. I'm banking on that again. Kirk Cousins continues to move forward and win these big games.
I'm going to say the difference between the Seattle offensive line and the Minnesota offensive line is enough to go from that defense looking really good to that defense looking
That's
at
fair.
Which point Case Keenum, I think, survives another week.
So you're taking the Vikings to go to 7-2, story of the season.
Lock of the week time, presented by the PFF Analytics team. I, as usual, am George Shahuri. I'm joined by the one and only Eric Eager. What's going on?
I'm doing well, George. Last week was a little rough. We missed on our lock of the week, and we had to deal with 2 pushes. But aside from that, ready to go get back to the drawing board and pick some games this week.
Yeah, man, that was brutal. We took Kansas City last week. If you had somehow forgotten how terrible of a pick that was, but in a little fairness to us, we thought, Zeke was going to be out. We had, every lawyer on Twitter telling us that there was no way he was going to play. And of course, that's our fault for listening to that. So we'll rebound. I promise. I feel really bad. Moving on to this week, we are making a return trip. We loved it so much. Mercedes-Benz Arena, the Atlanta Falcons hosting those same Dallas Cowboys. The Falcons are 3-point favorites, and we like the Falcons. So before we get to the Falcons side of things, Eric, as we usually do, let's talk about the big thing that would worry us the most on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, I think, if we're looking at reasons this might go wrong, it might just be because we're overreacting to the Ezekiel Elliott sort of news/unnews every single week, and just sort of overvaluing the running back position. We've seen this at times for another guy who was drafted 4th overall, Leonard Fournette. When he's been out the last 2 weeks for Jacksonville, people have sort of rushed to the other side of those bets. And it hasn't phased Jacksonville one bit. And so and not to say that all those situations are equal, but, as talented as Ezekiel Elliott is, we might just be overestimating his effect on the game, or, running the football's effect on the game in general.
I think everyone overestimates the effect of the running back, but I digress. The only other thing that I'll mention is the Dallas Cowboys pass rush has been, pretty darn good this year. DeMarcus Lawrence, very good, been very good all year. David Irving coming on of late. So that worries me, if anything worries me, about, picking Atlanta -3. But let's move to the other side of the ball. Biggest reason why you think Atlanta's the right pick here?
Yeah, I think we've, over the course of the last, year or so, have been putting together metrics to sort of uncover value in teams, and over the course of basically the entire season, we've continued to see Atlanta rated highly in a lot of our systems, and we've always sort of asked the question, like, well, why is this happening? Why is this happening? They continue to lose these games. They're 4-4 right now, but our metrics say that they're one of the better teams in the league, and so while they may not be a top team in the league anymore, there's still substantial value, I think, in them being only 3-point favorites at home against a team without one of its best players. And so, to me, I think that's where, again, we're trying to uncover value for our listeners, and that's where I see it.
Hey, you're a regular Mother Teresa over here, just caring so much about the listeners. I just am a really prideful person. I want to be right. But no, I agree with you. So I think there's, to look at it in a slightly more granular way, the biggest position, of course, that gets scrutinized is a quarterback, and Matt Ryan has 11 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. And you look at that and you go, oh man, he is, he's having a bad year. He's just not playing very well. But that's why we grade, every single throw. And you look at Matt Ryan, you look at the throws that were really bad, the turnover-worthy throws. He has 2 of them this year. And that it's one of the lowest numbers in the league, yet both of those have been picked off. He's one of only 2 quarterbacks to have all of his turnover-worthy throws picked off, and so that leaves 5 other interceptions that haven't really been Matt Ryan's fault, and that is the biggest number in the league. So he's just getting, he's getting a little unlucky here, and you would sort of expect that to even out over the course of the season. Last year he was kind of on the other side of that for the whole season, got pretty darn lucky in a lot of situations. Otherwise, his stats obviously looked really good because of that. But I think we're kind of on the smart side here to take an Atlanta Falcons team that, to the, I think, naked eye appears to be worse than, the metrics that we know to be stable really are showing.
Yeah, and I think the loss of Zeke really does kind of lower the sort of athletic differential too. Like if you have Atlanta with their linebackers with Deion Jones and Devondre Campbell, I think that they match up well against the combination of Alfred Morris and Darren McFadden. And then the rest of the Atlanta defense, there's only really one player, Ricardo Allen, who has graded below a 70 in our system. So there's a lot to like about this Atlanta team, and I think it's good to remember that they started out last season 4-3, and so they're 4-4 right now. You're kind of a similar situation, and then they came on strong and looked unbeatable for basically the entire second half of last season. So there's still a lot of time left, and I think this is a place where the record does not necessarily indicate how good either of these teams are.
I agree. I have one other point to make, but if you want to hear that point or read that point, actually, you're going to have to go check out the picks column that we write, profootballfocus.com. We get give 5 picks out. We are winning this year, so if you bet on those picks, you would be winning too. So sounds like you should do that. If you want all the picks, you can also get the PFF Elite subscription. It's a fantastic value, so do it. Make it happen. Anything else to add? Any other nuggets you've got to throw out to the listeners?
Are we picking Renner's game this week?
I didn't want to tell everyone because I was so excited about it, but I have Mike Renner dominating the Cincinnati Men's League Bocce Ball Tournament this week. If you didn't know, he's got skills. So I'm going to take that one to the bank. If you want it, jump on it as well. Ride the money train. Make it happen.
Lock it up.
You lock it up. We'll see you guys next week.
Let's go to another big game. Dallas Cowboys traveling to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Falcons are a weird team because I just did a team needs piece. I just did a mock draft last week, and I'm trying to figure out, hey, what do the Falcons need? And they're one of those on-paper teams that just doesn't have massive holes.
Yeah.
It's just one of those years that
Super Bowl team last year.
Yeah, they were a Super Bowl team last year, and they've continued to add more talent every single season. It's just a couple players here and there. And I think the difference between last year and this year is like a handful of plays.
Yeah, they're not even playing that badly.
Yeah.
They just haven't got the results so far.
And we keep saying they're in the NFC South where they're playing the Panthers and they're playing the Saints, and they're all going to beat up on each other, and it's starting to catch up.
Single biggest thing, though, to watching this game is that Des Bryant is questionable with a knee/ankle injury that he picked up in last week's game against Kansas City. Clearly, I mean, forget the game implications. This has PD implications. Des Bryant PD watch. If we miss a game, that's going to really impact his ability to chase down the league leaders in PDs.
Yeah, we do hope that Dez plays.
Yes,
because we've already thrown a little RIP on the Menelik Watson watch for the sacks. He is on IR,
so really
out for the season.
All we've got left is Des Bryant PD watch
and emails for Sam and Steve, and those will continue. We're not going on IR, so hopefully Dez plays. I'm still back on this, like Dak testing every single week. It's on your shoulders. Zeke, officially, for the 12th time, I think today, Sam, it's officially official that he's going to miss 6 games. These poor NFL reporters. We're not like true media here. We're not like reporters. The reporters who have to like go to court. Tommy Palazzolo, and he was over there for NFL.com today. Hey, I'm reporting from the courthouse. It's just not a job I would want.
Can you imagine having to report like this? 2 different sides of the same thing about 7 times in the space of a season.
Yeah. Zeke's back. No, he's gone. So right now he's out. Okay, so he's gone.
Okay.
And now I'm back on this. All right, Dak, show me what you got. You might have Dez out there, but I still think Dak has that decision-making and short area accuracy, intermediate accuracy to carry this offense and be the guy.
Yeah, I think these are both 2 good teams. I think these are both NFC contending teams. I think they're both there or thereabouts come the end of the season. I think that Dallas team is getting better. It's a big step down to go from Zeke Elliott to Alfred Morris and Rod Smith, but I think it's manageable. I mean, that offensive line is still good. It's still able to open up holes. Those guys can still maximize production through those holes. But this Falcons defense is pretty good. It's got guys like Grady Jarrett that can make an impact up front. Their linebackers are impressive and fast, which I think is important going up against guys like Alfred Morris that can exploit gaps but won't, do a huge amount after contact. So I think this is a really interesting matchup. I'm going to lean Falcons, but I could see this one going either way. This is one of the games of the week, I think.
It is. I'll be watching this one closely. I We might be on this game, Sam. You
Really?
and I.
Is this our game this week?
Yeah, I think we're splitting analysis on this.
Nice.
Wow, that's some inside baseball there. Some inside PFF. Sam and I are going to split first-round analysis on Cowboys-Falcons. I'll take Falcons offense versus Cowboys defense, and I'll be watching this Cowboys defense that I think is starting to come together. They had Alex Smith very uncomfortable in the pocket last week. DeMarcus Lawrence did a really nice job, and I think the young secondary, Jordan Lewis and Xavier Woods, and Byron Jones takes on a difficult role covering tight ends, and he'll be covering Austin Hooper quite a bit in man coverage. A lot of fun matchups in this one. I like Dallas. I just think that offense is still very good, led by Dak, and the defense will continue to improve.
Yeah, fun matchup, this one.
All right, let's jump up to Green Bay taking on the Chicago Bears. Brett Hundley and the Green Bay Packers. A weird game for Hundley on Monday Night Football, where he didn't really make a bunch of bad throws. He just left a lot of throws on the table, and it was very similar to his UCLA work, where he's just holding the ball too long in the pocket, but didn't make any disastrous decisions. It was just this, he did this okay, but this wasn't great, and that's what you get from Hundley so far as starter.
The biggest problem there is that they are really just going out there and saying, Brett Hundley, if you could go out and do your best Aaron Rodgers impersonation, that would be great. And it turns out that Brett Hundley's Aaron Rodgers impersonation is about as good as your Donald Trump impersonation, which is not good.
Have I tried to impersonate Donald Trump?
Once or twice. Didn't go well.
When did I do?
For the purposes of this analogy,
MAGA, man.
That's what it is. It's just a terrible. You can't expect Brett Hundley to go out there and be Aaron Rodgers.
Agreed.
Which is basically the only way that offense was functioning.
Right.
Even when that offense was struggling, when you had Aaron Rodgers there, the solution to that was always just, well, execute better. And eventually Aaron Rodgers, being Aaron Rodgers, would execute better and everything would get back on track. But you can't do that with the backup. You can't expect him to do the same thing and drag this offense out of the rut it's in single-handedly. You need to help him out. You need to do what Bill O'Brien did with Deshaun Watson when he was forced into a quarterback change, and say, okay, what do we do to make this guy's life easier? How do we simplify the offense? How do we play to his strengths? How do we put ourselves in the best situation to succeed? And I don't think the Packers are doing that right now, and consequently they're not enjoying much luck on offense. And the reason that's a huge problem is that the defense is not good. So Aaron Rodgers is able to keep them in games and win shootouts. Brett Hundley can't.
What about the run game here? I mean, even just watching the game flow of the Hundley starts, it just feels like there's this element of trying to get him involved in the game and trying to get him comfortable, and before you know it, you've scripted 12 passes and 3 runs, when Aaron Jones is running the ball well, and Ty Montgomery's capable of running the ball well when given an opportunity.
That is a phenomenal backfield they have. And Aaron Jones this past week, 5 carries. Ty Montgomery, 5 carries.
Yeah, that's
5 carries for 33 yards.
Right.
I mean, he had production. They should absolutely be leaning on this run game, and not just leaning on it, but using it as the foundation to run things like read options and all, various other things they could do off the back of that.
This is where you can get creative with all 3 of them in the backfield,
like Bill O'Brien and that Texans offense. And this can be even more dangerous because you have a Ty Montgomery. So you have a guy that can be split out and lined up as a wide receiver and create matchup problems, but they're not doing any of that. The
compliment that I heard from Zach Robinson, our QB guy here, when he watches the Houston offense, he's like, Steve, they are running Clemson's offense.
Yeah.
From it's not just that it's like read option type stuff. It's the way his reads work, and it's the way they're putting him in position to succeed. I think when you watch the Packers offense with Hundley so far, it's the Packers offense with like a couple trick plays, a couple options here, and it's like, oh, we'll use his athleticism on a couple plays. You might need this whole overhaul. I would love to see them rely on the running backs. Other side, still waiting for the training wheels to come off of Mitchell Trubisky. I think he's shown the flashes to be able to make some of the big NFL throws that you need, but he's had his rookie ups and downs so far this year, and kind of been like Blake Bortles, very much protected by what they're trying to protect him, at least behind the running game and defense.
This is a good Chicago Bears defense, and the offense is capable of pounding the ball against almost any team. Mitchell Trubisky, again, shouldn't have to do too much. I think this game sets up perfectly for Chicago to take down the Packers.
Yeah, I like Chicago. We actually'd. Well, we can verb that, right? We actually'd the Bears defense a couple weeks back, saying, hey, they're a top unit. They're timely with their blitzes. They're covering well on the back end. Adrian Amos did make your mid-season All-Pro team. Is that correct?
Yeah, and both those safeties have made Team of the Week at various points in the season.
So a lot to like on the Bears side of the ball defensively, and I'm taking the Bears as well. All right, let's go to Detroit. Cleveland Browns taking on the Detroit Lions. I'm not going to sit here and rave about Matthew Stafford's performance anymore. We've done plenty of that. Zach and I discussed it in depth on the QB episode and how much I love to watch good Matthew Stafford. Would love to see him keep it going, but it's rarely more than 2 games in a row that Stafford plays that well, but Detroit has enough other pieces, I think, to take down the Browns.
To take down the Browns?
I think they do.
Taking down the Browns isn't a huge achievement. I like that Deshaun Kaiser came out and said that the botched A.J. McCarron trade, it just showed him that he needs to step up his game.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yes. I like that he didn't know that already. I mean, this showed him that he needed to step up his game. Playing terribly hadn't sunk in yet that he needed to step up his game. But because they're trying to trade for another quarterback, now I probably need to kick it into an extra gear.
By the way, I'm of the belief that unless you are, I don't care who you are, don't worry about the quarterback's feelings. We have to apologize to Kaiser. We had these trade rumors, and we got to go back and tell him he's still our guy. If you're an NFL quarterback, it's expected that you're going to have the mental toughness to go and win a game in the fourth quarter. You should have the mental toughness to be able to handle a potential new quarterback coming in, potentially losing your job. I mean, that's always on the line. So unless you have the best quarterbacks in the league, I'm all for experimenting and maybe bringing in other guys, and you just hope that your guy has the mental toughness to handle it. And if he can't handle a couple trade rumors, probably can't handle the position in general.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Kaiser can or can't handle it. I'm just saying, the people that are like, oh, what about Kaiser? What happens there? It's like, of course they're in the market for another quarterback. You haven't established anything in Cleveland.
No, absolutely. Look, the only way Kaiser was winning this job this year is if he came in and played absolutely sensationally all the way through the season, and there was no doubt whatsoever that you found another Russell Wilson-type quarterback. That never happened.
And I was still of the minds that maybe they should grab another one.
I know you were, but most other people would have settled for the one Russell Wilson before chasing a second one.
Yeah, I get it. If he was Russell Wilson, maybe. Something to watch in this game, Cleveland's defense, I think, has started to come together a little bit the last few weeks, and starting to see that young talent play a little bit better. And I think that's going to be a key for them. If you're a Browns fan, second half, we're looking for, the Browns fan in general, looking for improvement. I'm not a Browns fan.
Don't forget to keep an eye on Devin McCourty there in the secondary, playing phenomenal at cornerback for the Cleveland Browns.
Devin posed as Jason, per one of our listeners, that I'm fully on board with. Devin McCourty playing.
Only thing that makes sense in explaining this performance this year.
Detroit, we always point out guys like Anthony Zettel overplaying their previous levels and overachieving. And look, if Stafford keeps playing the way they did, are they going to make a run?
That receiving core is really good. I mean, it's balanced, it's talented. They may not have a Julio Jones there, but they have, Marvin Jones, Golden Tate are two guys that are extremely difficult to cover and to deal with after the catch.
Tate's outstanding after the catch. And Marvin Jones always has had that. He's inconsistent, but he has that downfield ability. He made the diving catch over his shoulder for a touchdown early in the game. He has that downfield body control to make some big plays.
And then out of the backfield, you've got Theo Riddick and Amir Abdullah, both two impressive pass-catching running backs. I mean, they may not have the ability to pound the ball on the ground, but they have some really interesting receiving weapons, which is all about helping Matthew Stafford play well. I've always had this theory that losing Calvin Johnson to retirement made him a better quarterback because it forced him to play the game honestly rather than just saying, look, I'm in trouble here. There's Calvin Johnson, YOLO. He actually
there was a lot of that,
Yeah, he actually has to think about where the open guy is, what I should be looking for in this play, and it's made him a better player.
The Stafford was only pressured on 9 out of his 34 dropbacks. That's a very low percentage. Hasn't been the case the last couple of years for Stafford. Better job by the Detroit offensive line, not a great job by Green Bay's pass rush. He might have, more good protection again this week against a Browns defense that has not pressured the quarterback well at all.
One thing that'll be interesting to watch is that Stafford absolutely carved up that Green Bay defense when they blitzed him. They blitzed him a lot. They blitzed him 21 times out of 34.
Well, that was his weakness coming in. If you were in the scouting report, that was his weakness.
But they blitzed him badly, and he saw it coming.
Agreed, yeah.
And had a passer rating of 125 on those blitz plays. Now, if there's another team that will have, shall we say, ill-advised blitzes, suicidal, some might say.
Oh, Mr. Greg Williams.
It's Greg Williams and the Cleveland Browns. If they do that same thing, maybe we will see Matthew Stafford carve them up as well.
Zach pulled out another great number, by the way, about Stafford. 14% man coverage the last 2 weeks. That's it. Mostly zone against the Steelers and the Packers, and has carved up zone for the much of the year. Williams will play a lot of cover too, and those crazy blitzes. So there's your strategy watch for the Browns-Lions game that you guys will all be watching. 2 more games to get to. The Houston Texans, Tom Savage led Houston Texans, going to L.A. to take on the Rams. Any shot for the Texans here? The Rams have the best point differential in the NFL, Sam, in case you didn't know that.
Yeah, you brought that up on Monday's podcast, I think. I didn't know that.
That felt like
I knew it
ago.
now because you brought it up.
That was a long time
I didn't
ago.
know on Monday when you first brought it up to me.
Sometimes I repeat myself a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes a lot.
No, Houston are one of those teams that with Tom Savage are terrible. Without Tom Savage, we're fine. But, I mean, case closed. They've got Tom Savage now. They're going up against a Rams team that actually looks pretty good on both sides of the ball.
Right.
It's curtains.
Yeah, look, he's still Aaron Donald watch. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Jared Goff looked pretty comfortable against the Giants after a little bit of a lull the previous few weeks. And the Texans defense has had some games where they've just been completely carved up because they're pretty depleted. So we both like the Rams.
Yep.
In this one. All right, we're both taking the Rams. Let's go Monday Night Football. Miami Dolphins and the Carolina Panthers. The Dolphins and Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler was outstanding against the Oakland Raiders. It was a game I never thought I would see from Jay Cutler. It was 80+% completion percentage and dinking and dunking with good ball location and good decisions, and they ended up losing. But, wow, that was a good Jay Cutler.
The Miami Dolphins have lost 2 straight, and they're still at 500.
Yeah, because they started out 4-2.
No, I understand how it works
4-2.
mathematically.
I'm just helping you out because 4-2, 2 lost. Now we're 4-4.
Yes. I'm just saying that's kind of remarkable for a team that I don't think anybody has ever thought was good this season.
Yeah, I agree.
They're still firmly in the mix. I mean, they're only 2 games back in the AFC East.
The whole AFC, I was talking earlier about the Bengals being 3-5 and still, they're alive.
Yeah,
they're still
so,
going.
I mean, this kind of feels like it should be an easy Carolina win, but this Miami team somehow keeps finding wins. Other than, they've lost 2 straight, but they were in both those, they were in those games. It's not a terrible team. It's just there's a lot of terrible components to it.
I feel like you could just copy and paste that exact explanation for so many teams. Some weeks the Dolphins look good, sometimes they're bad. Same thing with the Titans. Same thing with these Carolina Panthers.
And even when you look at this Miami roster overall, there's bits of the defense that are really good, and then bits that seem to struggle badly. Like the defensive backfield has been pretty horrendous, but up front they're really good. And on offense, you've got a bad offensive line. They traded away their best player in Jay Ajayi, but you then get a Jay Cutler performance that everybody's chasing all the time. That's
right.
The Jay Cutler that everybody's been looking for the past 10 years. It only comes around once every now and again. And then the Panthers are almost at the other end of this thing. They're way more talented. It's a much better roster, but they just haven't ever played up to the level that we expected them this season. And yet they're 6-3 and still winning games because they get to play the Buccaneers last week. And they've run up against some of or not last week, 2 weeks ago. They've run up against some teams that they've been able to beat. But we're still waiting for this offense to look as good as it can look, given the weaponry that they have and the versatility that they have to be able to deploy these guys. And the defense, we're still waiting to really click into top form. And there's 2 weird teams is what I'm getting at.
Very weird teams. The Carolina defense has taken on this different form. Back in 2015 when they were 15-1, and it was very much a front 4-centric. We're going to rush 4. We're going to play zone behind it. Luke Kuechly's going to cover safety-like ground as a linebacker, and that's how they're going to play. Now they're one of the more blitz-heavy teams in the NFL. They don't have real pure pass-rushing talent. And again, as I was doing my draft needs and mock draft the last couple of weeks, I'm looking at this team, and it's like you're really relying that much on Charles Johnson off the edge and Julius Peppers off the edge, and Mario Addison does a nice job there too, but they're in need of just that front 4 that can get back to just dominating up front, and I think until they get to that point, they do have to take more risks, and it works when you've got Kuechly in the game and you've got Thomas Davis flying around and making plays. And I like the way they've deployed Shaq Thompson a lot throughout the throughout the season. He's played some safety-type looks and, using his athleticism. So they're a fun defense to watch. It's just a little different from what we've seen in recent years.
Yeah, I think they have the best linebacking group in the NFL. On the offensive side of the ball, and receivers, they traded away Kelvin Benjamin. That's the other side of that Buffalo deal. So now you're back to having no receivers again. You're back to, Greg Olsen is going to be coming back at some point. That'll help that. But again, before it was Greg Olsen and no wide receivers. That's kind of what they are again, only now it's Greg Olsen, Christian McCaffrey, and no wide receivers. I mean, this whole kind of helping Cam Newton succeed thing isn't really going that well.
But the Kelvin Benjamin thing, Kelvin Benjamin almost has that same effect as Calvin Johnson.
Yeah,
with Cam.
I don't know that Kelvin Benjamin was actually a plus for Cam Newton. As much as the logic makes sense,
right?
This whole
they should be a good fit because Cam overthrows everybody, and Kelvin's like 7 feet tall.
I get the idea of those guys. I just don't know that it ever helps a quarterback develop, giving him a guy that won't be open.
No, I hear you. I'm with you there. It's just another interesting look at how they're going to build this offense around Cam Newton in the short passing game. By the way, Cam has the highest adjusted completion percentage under pressure this year. So if you're looking for that, McCaffrey help and the short pass game help, Cam is at least getting the ball to the right guy when under duress instead of maybe forcing the ball down the field as much as he's done in the past. This feels like a slow burn turnaround for where Carolina's trying to get to. There's elements of it. There's a little bit of that short passing game that's working. It's not there yet. We keep talking about it every week, but I think it's moving in the right direction. That's my positive look on it. I'm taking Carolina. Who you got?
I still worry that this offense is just a little bit too predictable, and that's potentially vulnerable if a team really keys in on what they're doing with McCaffrey and how to shut that down. But yeah, I think that the Panthers edge this. I still think that this Miami team just isn't as good as 4-4, which is part of it.
Well, it doesn't matter. Miami is getting their third straight primetime game for everybody. Thursday night, Sunday night, and now Monday night, your Dolphins. They'll be on Monday night in a few weeks as well against the New England Patriots. Go Dolphins. We're both taking the Panthers in this one. We want to know what you guys want to do to Mike Renner this time. He did back out on us. He gave us fair warning, but I don't know about this Taco Bell stomach. Bad Taco Bell. I mean, you can't – look, if you know you have to be someplace that's not your house and you go and eat Taco Bell.
You think that's just –
it's like a 50-50 chance you're not making it out of the house.
Putting yourself in it. You are writing off our sponsorship possibilities. Well,
maybe KFC swoops
abusive
in.
Comment at a time.
Maybe KFC swoops in.
Maybe.
Or Chick-fil-A. Went there last night if you guys want to do some Chick-fil-A. Brought the family there. We were the classic American family going to Chick-fil-A last night. We're not generally doing that fast food type thing. It just kind of came together. Just me, wife, and the kids at Chick-fil-A.
Glorious, was it?
On just a Wednesday night.
Perfect. Rocking, living the life.
Just felt American. Just felt like we were doing stuff.
What do they do? What did Chick-fil-A do for a kid the youngest age that kind of barely onto real food? What do you do, like mash up a chicken burger?
We had we had chicken nuggets and some fries. So my 2-year-old and my almost 1-year-old both had the same thing.
Okay.
Now my 2-year-old is in that stage where he just wants to deny all food.
Okay.
Yeah, and my 1-year-old, you just can't get him to eat. And then my 1-year-old's at that stage where he's like, real food, and he just eats he doesn't know that he's full. He just keeps going.
Yeah.
So he's actually eating more than my 2-year-old. Loved the nuggets. We had a great time. So Chick-fil-A, bring it.
You'll get phases where you're like, how are you surviving on what's going into your body?
That's what I keep telling.
You should be dead at this point. That's
what I keep telling my wife. I'm like, our son needs nutrients.
Yeah.
And I know that he has like 3 sips of milk, and he calls it a night.
And it's bizarre. I went through phases where I was like, I don't understand how this child is still living. She's refusing to eat anything.
PFF Parenting Podcast will...
that's when we need to get Rick back on.
Rick has some good parenting thoughts. It involves...
cages.
Yeah, lock the kids up and keep them away from bad things. That'll do it for us today. Don't forget to get to ProFootballFocus.com. We got team previews, game previews that will match a lot of our analysis here. Go check it out at the site. And don't forget PFF Edge and PFF Elite. You guys all get $10 off when you use the promo code PFF10 on any of the products. Elite is now monthly. If you guys want to just test it out, give it a month. Get the $10 off. See if you like it. It has all of our goodies from fantasy to our in-depth signature stats to our player grades and all of our coming draft coverage is a part of it once you sign up. You get it for an entire year. So go check it out, profootballfocus.com. It's edge. It's elite. All right, guys, enjoy the weekend of football, and we will chat again on Monday.